All right, we're back here trying to broadcast again. I wanted to give a few minutes. Brother Mario Indino was recommended to me by a fellow friend on Facebook, Brother Richard Church, who is the Executive Director of Grace Beyond Borders, a Grace Believers Missionary Board endeavor. And Brother Mario is from the Philippines, and he's a missionary to Indonesia. And so he's got a board back here, a regular missionary table that tells you about things. And so be sure and take time to go back and check those things out, take a look at the ministry there. He's going to tell us a little bit more about that. We don't have a lot of opportunities to support foreign missions with people that are preaching sound grace doctrine. And so when we get an opportunity to get introduced to somebody like that, I know we have Dan Gross, and he's around us a lot, but there's lots of folks out there that are doing this. Brother Mario is one of them. I'm glad that he's here, and you share with us what's going on.
Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself and also the mission. And a couple of days ago, I was just kind of anxious because I was told by Richard that there is a conference, Bible conference in this place, and so I said, well, I'd like to go there. And so he promised that he will make a contact with Brother Simon. And somehow I think that he was just putting it away inside, and he was getting closer and getting closer. I was kind of anxious. I said, is it going to be realized that I would be going to attend the conference? And he said, yes. And in fact, Sam just answered my communication with him. And I looked at the Facebook, and I saw Sam riding on a horse. But it was black. And there was another cowboy that was supposed to be myself, but I'm sorry I did not dress up like a cowboy tonight. I should have dressed up like a cowboy. But anyway, in that picture I saw two cowboys riding and shaking their hands. And I feel, oh, man, this is nice. That means Sam is taking me and is, in fact, invited me to become one of his friends. And right away I agreed on Facebook to be friends with him. And while I look at that packaging, I noticed something in that picture, Brother Sam. They were shaking hands, but in between them there was a barbed wire fence. So I was thinking, this must be a message from Sam. Yes, you can come, but remember, there is barbed wire.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, okay, that's all right.
Reading too much into it.
But anyway, I'd like to introduce myself. I think my name has been already mentioned. My name is Mario Indino, originally from the Philippines. I have 4 children. I'm married to one wife. At least I would qualify. One wife. My wife is an Indonesian, and right now with our youngest daughter, they are in Indonesia. She's Indonesian by birth and also by citizenship. And one of our daughter, the youngest one, now she also acquired her citizenship as Indonesian. Myself, I am still a Filipino citizen. My 3 kids were born in Brazil, since we were missionaries in Brazil for 13 years in Brazil, from 1985 to 1998. I came to know the Lord back in 1970. My family, we were a Roman Catholic. I was raised in a Roman Catholic family. Big family. We were 11 brothers and sisters. And my mom was the first one who came to know the Lord. Somebody witnessed to her, and she came to know the Lord and received the Lord. And then that was the first time that we were introduced, and even that was the first time we had seen a Bible. Back then, in the Roman Catholic Church, Bible were not available. It wasn't easy to get a Bible. And so that was the first time we had a Bible. And I still remember the first time that my mom invited us with my brothers and sisters to go to the church, which was then a Protestant church. We did not have a Grace Church right away to fellowship with. And so this Grace pastor, he said, well, why don't you just join a church that is nearby, available church in your town. And the only available church back then it was Southern Baptist. And so we joined the Southern Baptist for maybe it was 2 years. And then finally we had a Grace man who came and established the work there, established the church. Myself, I still remember my dad when he first came to know the Lord, and he had a Bible in his hand. My dad was only third grade. He was not a well-educated person, but he can read and write. And he was so anxious, he did not want to jump right away. In fact, I think I can still remember my dad, he was very insistent in trying not to leave his religion. When my mom kept on telling him, why don't you just give a try? Let's go and listen and listen to the pastor. He said, well, I was born Roman Catholic and I'm going to die Roman Catholic. That was his statement. But soon, maybe a couple months later, I still remember we would walk, just my mom and my brothers and sisters, we would walk 2 miles to go to the church and back. Back then there was no clock on the wall. Nobody had wristwatches. And so the pastor, when he preaches, he just look at outside and look at the shadow of the trees. If the trees were, the shadow is quite straight down so that it's 12 o'clock, it's time to stop. But sometimes there's there's clouds. And so we just keep on and on and on. And so I have the clock, and before I came, Sam told me, Mario, first he said you got 10 minutes. And the second time he came, well, I think you got 15 minutes. And so I'm watching the clock on the wall. When I can still remember even the first time that I hear a Bible story. I still remember my first Sunday school teacher when I went. I still remember the first song that we learned. Imagine, that was back in 1960, 63, 64. That was the time when we came to know the Lord as our, we were converted. But I came to know the Lord when I went to Bible school back in 1970. Stayed in Bible school for 4 years and then served in the Philippines, helping the mission. Back then it was Things to Commission. I was with Things to Commission. Helping with church planting for 4 years. And then I came to the United States. I was invited by one of the missionaries, who was Bill and Eunice Heath. Came to the United States back in 1978. And I still remember traveling for the first time in the United States. I was in awe, looking at the nice, beautiful buildings, nice highways, and nice cars. And first time I got inside, went into the house of the Heats, and I look at when I step on the floor, and the floor was with carpet, just like your homes. It was carpeted, really carpeted. And I step on it and buried, I can see my shoes partly buried into the carpet. And I was kind of hesitant to bring in my shoes because I was too clean to have my shoes inside. And I felt like, well, this is much softer than my bed because my bed has no, what's this? A mat with that thickness like that. And so, wow, so this is the life. I returned to the Philippines back in 1978, and then I was invited to work in Indonesia. I was still single, like 23 years old. Went to Indonesia. I tried to tell the people here in the United States back in 1978, in several places. And I said, you know what, I have a burden of going to the mission field. I was still, very young, 23 years old. I said, I'd like you to pray for me. And when I arrived in the Philippines, I told them that I am leaving for Indonesia. Vernon Anderson invited me to help to work in Indonesia. And the only response that I had that will stand and support our ministry and my ministry at the time, there was one family in Bruce, Wisconsin. I do not know whether you know where Bruce, Wisconsin is, but way up north, way up north. And this is the Herman's family. And he said, Mario, I will send you $15 a month. That was the only family that started to support me when I left for mission field. I tried to convince new missionaries to go just like that, but none of them would like to go that way. With $15. Now $15 when I served in Indonesia, I never remember that there was a lot of food, that I ran out of money, that I had to beg for money from somebody. And when I think it back, now I realize that is, that is the amazing thing in the mission, when you work in the mission, as faith mission. In 1981, I proposed to my wife to marry her. Her name is Ella, and she's Indonesian, partly German. And she was raised in a home with good salary. Her parents were professors in universities. They were educated here in the States, in Texas. And so I said, well, and she asked me, I said, Mario, how much are you earning every month? I don't know if some of your girlfriend when you propose, or did they ever ask you that, or they don't? They just kind of watch if you have a nice car, you have a convertible, so you must have money. And so, and my wife asked me that. And so somehow I was able to evade to answer the questions. And finally she found it out later on after we get married. And I do not know whether she regretted saying yes to me, but we've been together until now, since 1981. The Lord has, we were able to serve as missionaries after that. I stayed for 5 years in Indonesia, first time in Indonesia. As you know, that Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world. With a population of 260 million, and maybe close to probably 78% out of 260 million, 78% are Muslims. And so there are, at least in one country alone, I would imagine, more than 180 million. You think in your country here, you have only 2 million Muslims in your country. We got 180 millions. But that is a mission field. The Muslim in Indonesia probably are the most liberal Muslim in the world. The government are so accommodating with the Christians and minorities. They help even pastors. They help us build a church. They help us build Bible schools, and they help us build, if you want to have a Christian, learning center. If you want to have a kindergarten, even if it's a Christian, the government are helping them. And so even some of my teachers, some of my students, they get scholarship to get a higher education in theology. Now, back then we were sent, later in 1985, we were sent to Brazil to work in Brazil, start Bible school, which was my main focus in the ministry is teaching the Bible schools. So in Indonesia, we started Bible school, and then also in Brazil we started that Bible school, but later sometime in the 1990s, late in 1990s, we must have closed it down, but we still have the facilities. And also, then I went back to Indonesia and served also in Papua New Guinea for 3 years in Papua New Guinea. Now in our ministry, my present ministry right now is more focused towards really in teaching and multiplying words. Mission field, somebody asked me, said, well, Mario, is it still really relevant? And is it still needed? Missions have been, mission agencies have been doing missions since in the early 1600s. You think of that. Early 1600s and early 17th century, there was already missions, and still we have missions with missionaries today. And you think of today, how many people, when I look at the story, you can ask on the Google. You look at on the population of the world. The population of the world is about 7.6 billion population in the world today. You know how many Christians? Christians in religion. Christians in religion. There are only 2.2 Christians in the world. You know how many Muslims? There are at least 1.6 billion. Now, among the Christians of 2.2 billion in the world, 1.2 billion are Roman Catholic. And out of the remaining 1 billion Christians, aside from the Roman Catholic, also that includes the Seventh-day Adventists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, and other groups that you would consider non-evangelical. They might believe in Jesus Christ, but non-evangelical, we don't consider them evangelicals. Now when you think, how many Grace people? How many people really understand the message like we do? You know, this is my burden. Wherever I travel, I always think, how many of these people are really saved? How many of them are really saved? You know, when I sit down if I am sitting next to somebody, my first thinking something that comes to my mind, I always think, is he a Christian? Is he going to heaven if he will die or not? You know, those are some of the questions. Even in our conference right now, I was blessed with my time with Sam. He's from Kenya. Is that right, Sam? Yes. And I just want to find out where he's from. Oh, he's from Kenya. And he had been following the Jehovah's Witnesses. So if I mention Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, he had been discipled by the Jehovah's Witnesses for how many years? 7 years? 5 years? 4 years? And so many things that he had learned from them that we have to once again re-explain our views. You know, our missions right now, the Lord has given us really openings in different fields. We have worked in Indonesia. We also have work now. We have worked in the Philippines, of course, that's where I am from. We have worked in Papua New Guinea. We have worked in Thailand. We have worked in Laos, and we have worked. We are trying to start also in Australia, and now we have also a missionary working in Nigeria. And next week, I will be in St. Louis, and after St. Louis, we'll be leaving for Canada because there is a group of people there who are interested in opening a Grace Church in Canada. But we could not find anybody who wants to go to Canada from here, from the United States. Can you imagine that? I have to fly all the way from Indonesia. That takes me about 22 hours, flying hours to come and go to Canada and see if we can start to work there. It's a challenge, isn't it? You know what? I remember when I just want to close this part now. I remember the passage that Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5, beginning from verse 1 to verse 14, all the way down to verse 21. That's a very beautiful passage. Of course, all scriptures are beautiful. I mean, in this part, he explains, elaborates his burden as ambassadors for Christ, the basis of his certainty that when he dies, he will be 100%, he will be in heaven. But there is a passage in verse 14 where it says, verse 11, after he speaks in verse 10 about the Bema Seat judgment. In verse 11, he said, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord. You know, some people think that he must be speaking about the reverential fear of the Lord. Maybe he's not thinking about the terror of the Lord. Terror means the wrath of God in the lake of fire. But you know what? When Paul speaks about the wrath of God, we've been saved from the wrath of God. I mean, he's talking about something that is, in Hebrews, where he speaks that it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. I always think that, I know that we cannot be motivated by fear. But what is the highest motivation? Of course, our love for God, the love of Jesus Christ. But also when we think about it, what is behind it? Why is it that, I have a friend, until now, I'm really sad that he is struggling on the belief that there is an existence of hell, and he believes that there is heaven, but he does not believe in hell. And you know what I told him? He said, you know what? When I think of the Lord Jesus Christ dying at the cross of Calvary, and that is what I also shared to Sam, I said, Sam, can you imagine if there is no hell and that we will just be wiped out, the unbelieving people, and will cease in existence forever, I said, why would Jesus Christ have to die at the cross of Calvary?
Amen.
In such a cruel death that is beyond our imagination? Why would he even bother? You know, I remember, I shared this experience, but it's kind of shameful, embarrassing on my side. I have grandchildren. I have, my oldest grandchild is a girl. She was just, her name is Magni. When she was just only 2.5 years old. She was with us in Indonesia. By the way, she's a very smart little girl. When she was just only 2 or 3 years old, she was already speaking 3 languages. And anyway, and she was already talking to me, and we went downtown, and I dropped my wife to catch a boat, and then I dropped my daughter to go to the university, and she was left with me. And she was sitting behind, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, we don't have car seats, for children. Most of them don't have. They just sit there or hold, mother will hold them. But this one, she was already 2 years old, she can sit at the back. And so she asked me, she said, Dad, is it right for me to play at the back? I said, sure. And I was driving. And I was driving, we were right in the main road in the city of Manado. And I saw the light, and so I stopped, wait for the light to open. And the light opened up, I moved right away. And when I moved, after I was moving, driving, I hear this commotion. Everybody were blaring their horns, loud, like that. And sounds of people. I said, the people, nobody were moving towards me. And I looked at nobody also were moving behind me. And since it was so much commotion, I could not hear clearly. So I glanced on my side view mirrors. And I saw my granddaughter in the middle of the road. She was just only 2.5 years old, and she was bringing her plastic bag like that. I think she managed to open the back door because it's it's a small SUV. She was able to open the back door and slip behind, because it was kind of high. So slip out there and close back the car and did not even make a noise. When I saw that little girl on the road, and my 2.5 years old granddaughter, she was looking at these trucks, and she was looking that way, and why she was kind of surprised. Why is there so much commotion? My heart is kind of stopped beating for a while. Slamming the brake, pulled my emergency brake, and opened the door and went back there, and I was running, and I was standing there. I was holding her little baby. Pick her up, and I said, Maggie, why did you get off? Why did you get down? I said, so I hold her. Going back there, the people were shouting at her, no. Well, she was still on the road. Everybody was shouting, no, God, there is a baby, baby. Well, I was holding my baby, going back to the car, and I was driving. I was holding her with my right hand because we drive on the left side. She said, Maggie, you stay here, and I don't want you to go at the back, and I don't want you to go down, you just stay here until I was 20 miles, I drove back home. So many things that came into my mind. What if, and what if. Understand what I'm saying? But it was something that I learned from that. The immediate reflex, the natural reflex, the human reflex, when they see there is life in the road, everyone wants to stop. I said, stop. There's a baby in the road. What I was thinking, I just wish that we have the same kind of spiritual reflex in our lives. I was sad, and one time I was visiting a family here in the US. And we were talking about these young girls and young people, grandchildren and so on. So I asked this family, I said, did you ever witness them? Do they know whether, are they safe? I said, well, Mario, yeah, this place is kind of private. When you talk to people about their faith. And I was just thinking, well, private. Yeah. He said, would you allow, would you have a heart to see your own daughter, your granddaughter, a car would run over it, and wait that somebody or that they might have a consciousness that to get out from the road? Or would you grab them? Or would you say, no, we do not know when death will snatch you, when death will come in your life and in my life. And that is the end of any opportunity and possibility of you being in heaven. There is no change, no change. That's what I told Sam. When you die, that's final, man, that's final.
That's right.
You decide your destiny when you are still alive.
That's right.
And it is your responsibility and my responsibility to tell your loved ones, either your granddaughter, grandson, your husband, your wife, if they have not come to know the Lord Jesus Christ as their own personal Savior, death will come, and that's the end. You'll never see them again. You'll never see them again. Thanks.
Amen. I appreciate that. And like I said, be sure and go back to the table and check those out. I'm sure that if you wanted to give a gift to his ministry there, that he would appreciate that and consider that. If you don't have it today, I will put up the information on the Bible Believers Cowboy Church page and my personal page, and I'll share that out. And so that folks here or folks that are listening and watching through the Facebook Live can have access to the contact information. Appreciate that, brother, and appreciate your ministry. Y'all be praying for Brother Mario and his ministry there. All right, very good. We're going to stop for just a minute. We're going to take like 5 minutes. Don't run off. Don't go everywhere. About 5 minutes, and then we're going to start again. All right? Thank you.